But all right, everybody, we're here.
No, it was my screen share. Yes, yes.
Okay, good. It was 𝙎𝙚. So we have somebody to blame now. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. Hopefully you enjoyed that beautiful intro. It was pretty nice. Luckily, I do cut out the intro at the end of the show, so you shouldn't have to deal with it if you're not watching this live. If you are watching it live, welcome to the show. Sorry you had to deal with that. But we're here. It is Thursday. That means it's time for another presentation-style interview, if you will. I'm excited about it. We've got joining me 𝙎𝙚𝙨𝙪𝙨. 𝙎𝙚, how's things going down there in South America?
Warm, hot, but nice. Nice to be here at the final, because I tell you 3 times for the last 3 weeks that I'm gonna be
It's all right.
here
We figured it
doing
out.
my presentation, but
It's all right. We did
shit
it. We handled
happens.
it. Shit happens.
Exactly.
And you
Yeah.
better have some.
Coronavirus.
Hopefully, you got some
things like
toilet
that.
paper if shit happens. And for
Yeah,
some people in the
we
United
we
States,
still have that.
there's no more toilet paper.
No, that's crazy, man. I mean, here we have confirmed the first 20 cases, and the authorities are telling on the news that we don't expect to be so quickly, to have so many cases so quickly. But yeah, shit happens. And
it
this
does.
coronavirus, for me, is a really, really good simulation, quote, reality, to check the new world order, because after all, and we are going to talk about that today, because for me, the things that happen in the last 20 years, of at least 20 years, is about this new world order and how much they can press on our head.
Absolutely. I think they're going to take this one for a while. I don't see any sign of it slowing down. I mean, for that to happen, you'd have to have people stand up and not act like maniacs, not rush to the stores to pick up all the toilet paper and hand sanitizer they can, and act like it's the end of the world because a few hundred people have the sniffles, have the flu. So, what are you going to do? You just have to sit back and observe. And so far, I'm not impressed with humanity's response. I'll tell you that much right now. Not impressed. So at least we get to talk about another topic today. For those of you looking for Coroni Baloney circus acts, maybe find that on another channel. Today we're going to be talking about the NASA Bluebeam project. We've got 𝙎𝙚 on because 𝙎𝙚, you've given this presentation right at the Spanish conference.
Yes, exactly. In January of this year in Madrid, for 500 people. So I'm gonna say thanks for everyone that coming to Madrid. Not only for Spanish people, but also some guys came from Ireland and from England. So it was very nice conference. And the nice thing was, like, we did in the center of the principal capital city in Spain, in all the phases of the heliocentric model, because in the authorities, not the model, but in the same theater that we give the presentation, it's also presentation from YouTubers with millions of subscribers, giving like a stand-up of astrophysicist topics. So we get laugh. We take some pictures with the poster of these YouTubers and send it to the social network, tweet it, and things like that. Of course, nobody responds, but I assume they saw it.
Well, good. I'm glad we're doing this topic. It's a good topic. And if people look for this on YouTube, what I noticed is there's not a lot of English content as far as the NASA Bluebeam project goes. There's a lot of stuff in other languages. Of course, we're going to be talking about 𝙎𝙚𝙨 𝙪𝙨, and he was not from the United States. So there's a lot of stuff in French. There's a lot of stuff in Spanish, but I just haven't seen a lot in English, so I think it's going to be good. Let me start by just showing people. If you scroll down in the description of this video that you're watching now, there will be 4 links to start it off. The first one is to 𝙎𝙚's English channel. I'm sorry, the first one is to his Spanish channel, which is called 𝙎𝙚 para Todos. The second link is to his English channel called MPT Red Pill. The third link is to his Patreon. So if you want to support 𝙎𝙚's continued research, which he does a great job, please do so. Patreon.com/𝙎𝙚 para Todos. And then also I have a link to your website, 𝙎𝙚paratodos.com.ar. So all your links are there if people want to support you or find your other information. Of course, all the Spanish community knows him quite well. If you're in the English community, you know him from Globebusters, but also please subscribe to his English channel where he's going to start doing some live streams from there as well. Correct, 𝙎𝙚?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm start uploading different content from my Spanish channel in English, more, type of video production, not just me talking over, making like a presentation, because for me, the English language is a little difficult yet.
Oh,
I
you do
know
it fine.
the
Come on.
people understand me, and that is very, make me very happy. If that wasn't the case, I am not going to be here, okay?
Right.
But I need your interpretation of my English,
Okay.
to
I'm here to
to
help.
help the people understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm here to help. We'll be able to take care of it. So, yeah, that's going to be good. And I just want to start out by saying thank you to all my patrons. So if you want to join them, you can do so easily at patreon.com/Jeranism. And while you're there, also support 𝙅𝙚 with $1 less than you support me with. Patreon.com/𝙅𝙚. All right, let's get rolling. Let me make sure your screen is up. Let's see here. Okay, I believe you're set up there. Thank you very much, Pat Drummond, for an early super chat. Please appreciate that. And I think we're good, 𝙅𝙚. Let me see the screen you
Okay.
have up is both your channels, right? Are we on the right screen?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's my Spanish channel and my English channel with the names. And then I'm gonna jump to the main slides
Okay.
of the presentation.
Looks
so it's called the NASA Bluebeam Project. Of course, this is my interpretation of how has been changed in my mind the NASA Bluebeam Project from between before becoming a flat earther. I have some kind of interpretation about the Bluebeam Project, and after being a flat earther, I am not going to say that completely changed my way to see this topic, but enhance so many of the missing parts
Right.
that I have it to trying to explain myself. So this is
It kind of helped you complete the thought.
exactly.
And I
yeah.
heard about
and
it too before, and you're right. Once you become a flat earther, you kind of have a more clear idea of some of these things and what they're going to be trying, and when they'll try it, who knows? But it's something to be aware of, be alert, and I think this will be a good presentation teaching people who have never heard about it.
Yeah, and of course, the majority of the presentation is with official document or official history facts that you can check for yourself, and a few, maybe few slides. It's from my own interpretation, but based on real technology or real facts. I believe that nobody has the ultimate word in any of these topics.
No.
But at least for me, this is related with all what is happened today, because at the end of the presentation, you're going to see that maybe they change years in the meanwhile, in terms of when they propose how it's going to be and how it's now. For me, they change a few things along the path. So
Right.
I'm gonna try to explain that, and I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation.
Yeah, and it probably is going to be in two parts. As we get into it, we're going to try and stick to an hour and a half today. And 𝙅𝙚's got a lot of slides to get through, so if we don't get through them all today, then we will be doing this next Thursday at the same time, 12 noon Pacific, 4 p.m. 𝙅𝙚 time, whatever the hell that time is. But anyway, 12 p.m. Pacific for you guys, same time as Globebusters, same time as the Friday Lounge, probably next Thursday for part 2. But let's go ahead and get rolling with part 1.
Okay, and just like a disclaimer, some things or some text are translating directly via the Google tool, so maybe you're going to find some errors in the translation, in the text translation. For example, I have seen this right away where I don't know why they put Project Blu-ray instead of Bluebeam. That because I took this and I translated from the with the tool of Google, and maybe you're gonna have these different words sometimes. So I just want to say that as a disclaimer, okay? But for me, the first thing it's that who proposed, or who was the guy that take this document and publish and start talking about the Bluebeam Project. And not the Bluebeam Project, it's NASA Bluebeam Project. And for me, that simple word changed everything.
That's
because
the big point.
it's a big point, and in fact, if you take it from the flat Earth perspective, it's really a huge difference between talking about Blue Beam Project or NASA Blue Beam Project. Because if you go to, doesn't matter the language or the community, if it's Spanish or English or whatever, all the information that you're going to find in terms of this this topic, it's all the time titled like Blue Beam Project. But they never use the word NASA at the beginning. And when you go to the official document, was presented for the first time from this French guy called 𝙎𝙤𝙨𝙪𝙞𝙮. He died in Quebec, in Montreal. And
interesting facts around his death too, which a lot of people have looked into. He died shortly after revealing all this, and died by a heart attack. A lot of people think that wasn't nearly what was being told, but go ahead.
But yeah, that is something that you need to take into account. It reminds me, because I'm going to use that as a part of the evidence. For example, the journalist that asked to George Bush and John Kerry about the Skull and Bones, this type of things that maybe in the past was much easier to trying to keep the secret. Maybe in our days we have so many different ways to express ourselves in terms of the social network that it's so easy to kill the messenger and that's gone. But maybe at these times it was much easier if you shoot the messenger, and maybe you keep the secret a little longer, before start spreading in the news and in the alternative news.
Absolutely.
So the guy, like you said, has a very strange way to, not strange way to die, but it was a little suspicious. And very shortly after he presented this document, that it came from the UN. That is something that also it's very important, because UN is one of the main institutions that it's trying to establish the New World Order. And this is not just when he present that, it's also at the same time that George Bush father started to talking about the New World Order. And when you read the full document, the end goal is to create a New World Order. That is the end goal of this Blue Beam Project. It's based on establish like a new religion, the new image of Messiah, unify, the religions and the Messiah with these universal supernatural manifestations. They combine all this with the alien agenda, alien propaganda and alien agenda. But the main goal is to establish a new world order and unite the humanity. So that is the main goal after this supposedly Blue Beam Project. Then you have, of course, if you go to the official web page, because it's still on in internet if you want to check it, the guy start talking at that time of the Club Bilderberg involved in this project. It's not just the UN or NASA. It's also, the elite group that everybody knows in our days. Then if you start reading, you're going to find a few things that is important, because he talks about a lot, the document talks about a lot the combination or work together with Russia. Russia is a really important ally to establish this new world order. And of course, the major space agency came from Russia and United States. In the document, it's also mentioned the idea of, like, a first step that the idea to put in the people's head the idea of an alien invasion using films like 2001, Space Odyssey, or the Star Trek series or Star Wars movie. So here, at the first glance, you have this main topic of Hollywood, helping to introduce this idea of the space and alien invasion, which in our days we see every day. You open your newspaper or your movies, you go to the school, whatever, you have alien invasion already gone, not in the sky, because my idea of this presentation is that it doesn't matter if they project in the sky.
Right.
They
don't even need
project
to do
in
that.
your mind.
Right. That's more important.
And that is more important, of course.
And real quick, I looked up Sergei because I didn't know if it said in his Wikipedia. And sure enough, it does. It says right here, by 1995 and 96, Monas said he was being hunted by police and authorities for involvement in networks of prohibited information. He had homeschooled his 2 children, who were taken away and made wards of the state in September 1996 so that they would receive a public education. He died of a heart attack in his home in December 1996, so just a few months after, at age 51, the day after he was arrested and spent a night in jail. His followers claim his death was suspicious, you think, suggesting he was assassinated by psychotronic weapons to keep from continuing his investigations, and that Jerry Fletcher, the Mel Gibson character in the 1997 film Conspiracy Theory, was modeled on him. So I didn't know that would be in his Wikipedia, but sure enough, it's there. So anyway, back to you.
Back to here. Well, you have all the information, the typical information out there to read if you want to. And of course, in our days, we have a lot of characters that talks about the blue beam in different ways. Some of them are called shields, that, like Jordan Maxwell or David Icke or whatever. But someone that really, for me, was a really important guy, how he expressed very easily about the Blue Beam Project was Milton William Cooper, who was another guy that was murdered.
Right,
Bill after Cooper. Presenting or talking about the 9/11 before happening.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all this connection that the people that trying to warn us, they suffer. They found death very quickly and very easily. Maybe, like I mentioned before, maybe nowadays it's going to be a little more difficult. But
I mean, just look up the Bill Cooper situation. You can do all the research you need to on that. They basically went to his house, hunted him, and shot him. It wasn't very difficult for them to do it. Directly, yeah. It's not even really hidden.
Exactly. But in our days, maybe if you act like that, it's going to be a little more suspicious.
Right.
They're still doing, of course, maybe in the pharmaceutical, maybe with the people that are not, exposed in the social medias.
Right.
Maybe the people that expose a little more, it's going to be more suspicious if they go with that in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, in the document, they talk about NASA and the Russian Space Agency. I believe that in our days, they are all involved. Of course, there is no any space agency that is not involved in this New World Order or in this type of situation. Maybe they are not the main characters. Maybe the main characters are still NASA and Russia. But you need complices because if not, it's not going to work. And we are seeing in our days with the coronavirus or that kind of thing. They are all in the same soup.
Right. Yeah, you can't stand away from it. If you do, you're not going to be included. So it's the entire, community of these people, and that includes SpaceX, NASA, Roscosmos, JAXA. Of course, he has the logo for CNSA, which is a Canadian, and everybody.
Everybody, exactly. The Chinese, and of course the other institutions like we're going to see in the future of this presentation, but the OTAN, the UN, the UNESCO, you need a lot of different pieces. It's not just one agency that's going to take care about everything.
Mm-hmm.
You need the politicians, you need the scientist community, the mass media scientist community. But like I said before, the idea is to present via an alien invention, the new Messiah, the new. And for me, it's all the time it's the same thing. I mean, when we talk about aliens, we talk about beings that came from the clouds and, getting down on Earth and talks with humans. And that is, for me, the first alien invasion is the religion stories. If you want to see in that way, I'm just going a parallel, comparison. But there are beings that came from the sky and talks with humans and then disappear.
Right. It's the same kind of story, just in updated terms.
Exactly. Then you have in real facts and real things, you have this, for example, the 2030 agenda from the UN, that the last point, the 17th point, is to make this global partnership. And this is another way to talk about the New World Order. And I'm going to remark this. The final goal behind the Blue Beam project, the NASA Blue Beam project, is to portray a new world order. So that is the final goal of this project. So you have right now the UN presenting the idea of we need to get together because we are not capable to solve the problems of the whole world alone. So we need to, start united and things like that. But the main topics, if you start reading, it's divided in 4 steps, and the 4th step itself is divided in other 3 steps. And remember, this was writing at the 60s, 70s, 80s, and of course, a lot of technology that we have today, maybe that they are not capable to predict that. And that is why, for me,
it changes a little bit.
Yeah, it changed a little bit. But
it certainly is interesting that it all came about right after World War II, when we start to have better technology, and then this all kind of steps up from there.
Exactly. So the first thing, I'm going to read it, or maybe if you read it for me, it's going to be better because you have better English than me. So let's just read literally what the document said.
Sure. So the number 1 thing says, the fall of all archaeological knowledge. It is about organizing discoveries in certain precise locations around the world where supposed new discoveries will finally explain to them that the meanings of basic doctrines of important religions around the world are wrong. This falsification will be used to make the population believe that all religious doctrine has been misunderstood and misinterpreted.
Okay, thank you for that. Maybe that the translated tool was
maybe, I don't know.
Failed there, maybe. The second step.
Okay, second step is the gigantic space show. It says 3D optical and sound holograms, laser projections of multiple holographic images in different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to their original default national religious faith. This new image of God will speak in all languages.
Perfect. Nice. You have a nice pronunciation, Jenna.
Thank you. I can speak English. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, very impressive.
I don't know if you knew that. I can speak 1 language fluently. It's pretty impressive.
Okay, that's nice, man. Yeah. If you want to end reading, so.
Okay, electronic bidirectional telepathic communication. It says waves, ELF, extremely or extra low frequency, VLF, very low frequency, and LF, low frequency, will locate people on the earth through the interiors of their brains, making each person believe that their own God is actually speaking to them from within his own soul. And then number 4, universal supernatural manifestations using technological and digital media. And this one has 3 different steps as
orientation.
Well. Yes.
Yeah, steps. So that is what, what it said in the document. This is the next. We don't need to read right now, but because this document, it's when they talk about religion, they are focused in the Christian community, and for me that's it doesn't have any strange thing, because after all the Christian religion, the Catholic religion is the main religion in Occident. So if you wanted to attack a religion or if you want to change the image of the Messiah, you need to
start
update. Exactly, you need to update the Catholic and Christian religion. You need to change that in their minds.
You were zoom in a little bit so we fill the screen again. I've got a big.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. There you go. All right, we're good.
Okay, perfect. So that is what the document said. So we have this technology. We are capable to produce this gigantic space show or the electronic bidirectional telepathic communication. We are capable to fake archaeological knowledge, or telling to the people that we have been misunderstood, and in fact what we believe was angel in fact are aliens and things like that. That is what I'm trying to cover in this main presentation. So maybe one of the first things that they start using to cover up some military operations that maybe at that time, if you want to go public, it's going to be a little difficult because it's involved, super high, bad, not technology, but, if you're going to make, nuclear operations, nuclear bombs operation, things like that after the Second World War, you're going to, call the attention of the complete world.
Right.
So you don't want to do that. So I believe this kind of blue beam thing, it's also a really nice thing to cover up, military operations,
right,
or things like that. That like they use the, the space. For me, when they talk about the ozone, the hole in the ozone layer, is they are covering all the operations of the 𝙎𝙬𝙨 operation and this study of the ionosphere, things like that. No, it's a hole in the ionosphere that was produced natural.
Yeah, I'm laughing at this picture in the lower right-hand corner. That certainly looks like alien technology there that they found.
Yeah. They found, yeah.
Look at those aliens. They're so far advanced. They can fly here from stars, and they use tinfoil for their crafts.
Exactly.
Pretty impressive.
When they start to, if you go right now to the UFO community, they are still talking about the Roswell.
Oh, yeah. It's
UFO incident.
Yeah, they love it. It's their big one.
They love it. They love it. And maybe in our 20th century, that was the first major news that start the UFO community.
Which, again, was right after World War II.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you go right now and start looking into this operation, they're going to tell you in your face that it's just a military operation. It's nothing have to do with UFO. With UFOs, and they put all the images and they show you all the things that was involved in this operation, the balloons that they used to, create these
observations. The project
exactly. You have. I am not going to read because it's not worth it. But I mean, you have all the information, but in the people's mind, this was the starting point. And right now, if you go to the declassify, how do you pronounce this? Classify?
Yeah.
How you said?
Yeah, classify.
Okay. The classified papers, you're gonna have all the things necessary to understand that this just was a military operation. It nothing has to do with aliens or UFOs or nothing like that. In fact, in our Spanish community, you have you have videos from that. So,
wow.
I mean, of course, this is.
Now, of course, the UFO enthusiasts will say this is just a cover-up by the government.
A cover-up.
Yeah. Of course.
And that is the genius behind this.
Right.
Because
it wins for them either way.
Using the cover-up of the cover-up.
Right. That's why it didn't matter to them either way. It's great for them in either facet. You're able to cover it up. You're able to say, oh, no, it's just military use. It's nothing to do with aliens. But then, of course, that's going to keep people thinking, oh, the government's lying to me. It must be aliens.
Yeah, exactly. So that is for me when they start. And of course, in our days, at least in the Spanish community, and not from Argentina, but instead from Spain itself, there are hundreds of YouTubers talking about UFOs, and all the time, everything it's an UFO.
Right.
Everything that you see in the sky that doesn't, spread heat or has any kind of turbine or thruster, things like that, that is floating up in the sky, is a UFO. And I just, put this as an example. You have a lot of these things. And of course, you have the balloon satellite communications that also are up in the sky without any kind of thruster or heat emission, nothing like that. That is just floating there. And it's tinfoil color, so it's going to camouflage with the sky, things like that. But a lot of people, immediately, these are one of the main, researchers in terms of the UFO community in Spain. He has He has millions of followers, and for example, they made complete videos talking about this shape in the sky. And no, that is in the UFO in Barcelona because I photograph and I seen floating in the sky and then disappear. But you have all these kind, first of all, like the toys things that like people just inflate and drop into the sky.
Right.
And has, you know, why the aliens use aluminum?
Right. Aluminum.
Aluminum to create their ships. It's all the same thing that if they did it here on Earth, you know, using the same material, things like that. You know, I just want to what I'm trying to say here is, in our days, unfortunately, everything in the sky is a blue beam project, because this is a projection in the sky. You don't need just to shrink your perception of the NASA Blue Beam project at something that, no, if it's not holographic projection in the sky, that is not a Blue Beam project. Everything is a Blue Beam. When you open your paper news and see news about asteroid, that is also a NASA Blue Beam project.
Yeah, especially with everything that they're putting in the skies, and it gives them so many abilities to do whatever they want with it.
Exactly. Then you have the technology behind that, they are trying to replace or upgrade satellite communications, and they all the time they use this so convenient UFO shaped, to put up in the sky.
Can't imagine why.
So this, you can imagine why, right? So, for me, it's also a nice thing to say. Or to distract people, because a lot of people that start seeing these kind of things in the sky, they are not going to think, oh, that is a satellite communication balloon.
Right.
No, that is a UFO. So it's brilliant how they deceive people, doing all these kind of made up cover-ups and using these kind of things to, okay, if we're going to hang things up in the sky,
why not make them look like UFOs?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you have also, for example, the Zeppelins that, of course, nobody use anymore for transport, but they are all using in terms of communication and military things. And with these, nice names like Dragon, Dream, things like that.
Dragon
and
Dream.
Of course, they are like mirror in the sky. So when you look up in the sky, you're going to see nothing. And if you see it, it's going to be something like, oh, no, that is a invisible UFO because we cannot detect it. It's made
cloaking technology or whatever they want to say.
Exactly. So for me, all these kind of things, at least is how it started. And after all, the thing that everybody is waiting for the holographic projection in the sky, but it's not necessary. They project in your mind directly through news or through this kind of technology that they use for other purposes.
And just the constant barrage of TV, television, radio, news, everything is just constantly putting this in your mind. It's allowed to talk about aliens. It's allowed to talk about UFOs. It's talked about in the mainstream. Why? Because it just cements it in your mind, even subconsciously.
Exactly. And let me just maybe plasmoid anomaly. Let me see if I can. And I really recommend, and I show this on Globebuster Show. But if you want to see how many things we have in the sky that a lot of people call UFO, but indeed there are, maybe satellite balloons or maybe just other things that regular people drop into the sky as a gift, when you buy just balloons for your child and maybe you drop it in California and the balloon reach, whatever, and you see in the sky. But we have a lot of things really crazy. But this, for me, if you show this to some people, you're going to say, no, this is like a UFO. And this is aluminum foil, with natural color, because maybe this was like a Mickey Mouse face deforming for the heat in the sky, the pressure, things like that. So, but in the UFO community, everything that is floating in the sky is suspicious to be an UFO. And of course, if you follow this kind of channel, you're gonna found really strange objects that call to your attention. But for me, this is the type of thing that so many people, they want to believe that these things are UFOs. And in fact, they are very far away to be something like that. I just want to point this out because it's related, at least in our days, of all the UFO community that seen these kind of things and immediately it became a UFO. But you have a lot of these kind of groups that talk about this, and they call anomalies instead of maybe calling, balloons or things like that. And of course, time to time, they found weather balloons or satellite balloons. So it's a nice YouTube channel, these kind of things, if you are a flat earther. Because here you can see how they use the satellite balloons for weather or for telecommunications and things like that. Not just Google Loons or those companies, the government too. So for me, one of the things that start calling my attention, because after all, we have been reading papers and doing our interpretation about the UFO invasion, but when you start thinking, well, this go for real, and for me was like when I remember one of the first things that shocked me when I start researching about the flat earth was this idea that the politicians, very first level politicians, start talking about the flat earth. So
if I say that the world is round,
you remember this kind of thing.
someone else says it's flat.
If some of these folks were around when Columbus set sail, they must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society. They would not have believed.
We are not members of the Flat Earth Society, but what I'm trying to say is why this type of people is going to lose time
constantly
talking about and so angry. In fact, what is the name? Sean Kerry was really angry.
Yeah, he gets upset.
Let me just underscore. You don't need to be a scientist to know that the Earth is round.
And we need to make clear that those members of the Flat Earth Society,
The current members of the Flat Earth Society in Congress.
We got some people at high levels of aspiration who are the Flat Earth. We have Flat Earth Caucus. The Earth isn't.
And this is in Congress or in the White House or whatever. I mean, this is not just a random situation that somebody filmed this guy with a cell phone in some party.
No.
So when you see this kind of thing, you need to understand in sociological way. It's not just scientific way that you need to start looking in these things. At least
there's
that
something
is
else. Yeah, there's something else behind it.
It's something else behind it, exactly. And so many times, this guy laughing and trying to, shoot down the flat earth, and it was completely the opposite.
Well, it's social conditioning, no different than when they taught us in school. They didn't teach you about the differences between a flat earth and a curved earth. They didn't talk to you about the curvature formula. They simply told you one was fact and made fun of the other. Made sure that they told you it's not possible. Water would fall off the earth. There's no possible way. And it builds it up in your mind. That's why it's so difficult for people to even look into it, because they've been socially conditioned to reject it.
Completely, yeah. And in fact, I really love this. You remember when supposedly Juno reached Jupiter,
right?
And the guy, the mission commander, he said, well, because the mission was successfully, we're gonna destroy all the press conference paper, because
so we prepared a contingency communications procedure.
If everything was wrong, we have this paper to read. But because everything was fine, I'm going to destroy it in your face. And with that simply act, they clean all the room.
Right.
So.
And guess what? We don't need that anymore.
There should be a legitimate debate between whether the Earth is round or flat, because after all, any idiot can walk outside and look and see that it's flat.
To debate this? Is NASA lying to us?
Well, sorry, good. But this, this is just a very short compilation, and I assume that everybody out there have been see this before. But you have so many different stages, because you are talking. You have politicians talking about the flat earth. You have news. You have mass media news like the Discovery guy, but you have the NASA. This is Blue Beam Project too, because when they do a press conference for a spacecraft that reach the outer space or reach a new planet, that is something that telling you the heliocentric model exists.
Right.
So if that model exists, some aliens are, they can come to our planet and invite it and blah, blah, blah.
We can't possibly be alone. It doesn't make any sense. So there has to be other intelligent life out there. We can't just be alone on this small speck. Space is real. Space travel is real.
Exactly.
Vacuum is real. Light, distance is real. It's just everything to reconfirm what people have been taught. And again, it's just a subconscious thing.
Exactly, and the same equivalent I showed before the politicians talking about the flat earth, because for me, when I started looking into the Blue Beam Project, the first thing that's really caught my attention was in the UN, people talking about that we need. It's not just matter of, if things happen, things happen. No, that we need. They establish a need.
Right.
So if you need something, you are going to trying to get it, and you are going trying to fabricate it if you want to see in that way. So I'm going to play this video. I assume that a lot of people know this video, but for the record.
In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
That kind of speech is nonsense.
Right.
I mean, you are in UN in front of all these world leaders, all the press, all the media covering this event, and you are talking that we need 3 times in this opportunity, in this case, because he talks so many other, he gives other speeches.
Right.
But what has to do with the political issues or economic issues?
Something completely false in the problem, reaction, solution, right? I mean, he's just setting it up.
Exactly.
It'd be the same thing as, I don't know, complaining of, maybe we need a Mickey Mouse to start to terrorize, or a Godzilla to start to terrorize the world. We'll all come together if Godzilla appears.
It's like saying, well, maybe we need a Godzilla to unify the world.
Right.
It's the same thing.
If Godzilla was terrorizing all the countries in San Francisco and Tokyo, maybe we would come together.
Maybe. So that is insane. But of course, nobody complained. Nobody saying nothing.
No, because that's okay. It's okay to talk about aliens.
Exactly. He repeat the same speech.
But I've often wondered, what if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet?
What?
Wouldn't we all of a sudden find that we didn't have any differences between us at all?
But here, something that is remarkable is that you need to understand that the synthesis of all these, alien invasion that he's proposed is about the New World Order, because he's asking that we need to unite. So here, for me, here in this kind of real life event, you can start see, how the UN document about the NASA Blue Beam Project at least start to run away. I don't know how to say. I mean, start to get life.
Mm-hmm. Right, starts to come to life almost.
Exactly. So, because some people is going to tell you, no, that document is a false document, like the Zion protocols or the Monita Secreta, all those things that compromise the elite or the institution are fake. Well, if you start reading and what that book said is happening, it doesn't matter if it's fake or not fake. I mean, it's happening.
Right. We're seeing signs of it.
Exactly. So when you start looking to this president, and this was about the 80s in your
late
right?
80s, yeah.
Well, it's the same year or the same decade that is talking about the French guy. I forget the name. Sorry, to pronounce the Sergeant Monast.
Sergei Monast, yeah.
Yeah, he talks about that kind of that time.
Right.
So this start happening at that same time. So this is a connection with reality, between the document and the reality, and it's simply as that. You don't need to go conspiracy theories or nothing like that. It's just real life event.
We were all human beings, citizens of the world, and wouldn't we come together to fight that particular threat?
So after a few decades or after a few years, we start looking in our present days. You know, for example, this was, and when you look this picture, you need to understand it or analyze in terms, like I mentioned before, in terms of psychological way, because this child she's representing us as a population, you know, immature population with that a child believes everything an adult says. Mm-hmm. So this guy represents institution, and this child represents people.
Exactly.
That is the kind of picture that we can find here in terms of the, psychology, not psychology, socialist, sorry.
Not psychological?
Yeah, well, psychological, yes. I want to say sociological.
Sociological,
I believe.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to play and see how they use, especially Bill Clinton, how they use the same exactly words that Ronald Reagan uses.
Mm-hmm. Like what kind of secrets would you want to know? What would be in the Book of Secrets?
If aliens are real.
But why this child say that? Because Hollywood put in her mind.
Yeah, who the hell else would get her to say that?
Exactly. So that, again, you start looking how all these things start working in our, mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you think?
I think aliens are probably real.
Golly. Okay.
Seems like somebody spilled the secrets already.
I thought that was classified.
It's a Book of Secrets, and yet there's a TV show.
Yeah, well, the truth is, Macy, we haven't actually made direct contact with aliens yet. But when we do, I'll let you know.
The moment I was inaugurated, my hand would it'd still be hot from touching the Bible, and I would immediately race to wherever they hold.
Nice combination, Bible and aliens, right? That's
I immediately,
nice.
Putting my warm hand from the Bible.
Have the files about Area 51 and the UFOs, and I go through everything to find out what happened.
Right. That's why you will not be president. But that's the first thing that you would do. The aliens won't let it happen. You reveal all their secrets. They exercise strict control over us.
Now, there are a lot of people that are going to examine your facial expressions here, every twitch, everything, and say, and of course, so did you look? Did you see? Did you explore?
I can't reveal anything.
Oh, really? Because President Clinton said he did go right in, and he did check, and there was nothing.
Well, that's what we're instructed to say.
And there's a new name. It's unexplained aerial phenomenon.
But if we were visited someday, I wouldn't be surprised. If we were visited someday, I wouldn't be surprised. If we were visited someday, I
don't know
wouldn't
why
be surprised.
it's so many times.
That's all right.
That it's not like Independence Day.
Yeah, right.
That it's a conflict.
Well, now we have friendly
Maybe the only way to unite this incredibly divided world of ours. They're out there. We better think of how all the differences
and the same
among
words
people on Earth would seem small if we felt threatened by a space invader. That's the whole theory of independence.
You're right. You're right.
Think of how all the differences among people on Earth would seem small if we felt threatened by a space invader. That's the whole theory of independence.
You're right. You're right.
So what I'm trying to show here is that something that happens or start happen in the 80s is not just still going, it's increased.
Mm-hmm.
So you have with our supposedly politicians talk about the same thing. You can laugh if you want, you can make jokes about the aliens, but it's there, it's on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a real impact in our life. And in fact, when these guys talks about these alien invasions to unify the world, well, look the coronavirus.
Right.
For us, it's an outside invention because it's not from our natural thing.
Right.
And what they did? They did that. The whole world start talking about that. Close the airports, trying to do this, to do that. The market go down and blah blah blah. So that is why I'm talking. I'm saying at the beginning of the show that for me, the blueprints of the NASA Bluebeam project, they start using different paths, different ways with the same main topic.
So it may have changed, but it's the same idea. And you can just look at, I mean, nobody knows anybody that's died from the coronavirus yet. Everybody's flipping out about it. Everyone's afraid. Why? Would you be afraid if there was no TV? If there was no news? Would you be afraid? Of course not.
Of course not.
You wouldn't even know anything was going on.
Exactly. And then they keep transfer to real life events, you know, because, for example, you know, the Paul Hellyer, which was the Canadian, it was a really high politicians in Canada. The minister of the how is the name in English?
Defense, Minister of Defense of Canada, I think.
Yeah, Asuntos Exteriores, Foreign Affairs, maybe. I don't know if I pronounce well.
Say it again.
Like this.
Oh, Foreign Affairs.
Yeah, I believe this guy was something like that.
Okay.
In Canada, but you have this real, you know, main figure in politics talking about at least 4 alien species have been visiting Earth for thousands of years. Like you know, he are so, you know, so sure.
Right, he knows it.
He already see it.
They came in.
Coffee with these 4 alien
They
species.
had a coffee with him. They came in. They had a little sit-down chat at a round table.
Exactly. But, you know, he came on RT television. He was a politician. So the people start, you know, thinking, well, why he's going to
lie about that,
know.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this guy is out there giving all kind of speeches and lectures and conference talking about this. Among with, for example, Karen Schutz, the woman that he was like World Bank whistleblower, and talk about these Anunnakis and giants.
Right.
And I don't saying that you know, maybe it's true, maybe not, but it's it's something that is suspicious.
It's
at
let
least for
go,
me.
right? The fact that it's let out there is suspicious.
Exactly. Here you have the Paul Hellyer in the it was the Minister of Defense,
correct,
of the national, a military, a military guy related with UFO. Then you have David Icke, that it's one of the most in our days talks about reptilians and shapeshifter and the Queen of England shapeshifter and blah blah blah.
Right.
And it was the first wife, and the wife is doing a really strange sign. I don't know any person that when is going to take a picture
puts that up there. No.
Yeah, exactly. If you're gonna take a picture with your husband, you're gonna like a normal, you know, hug and something like that. You're not going to put that kind of sign in the. So I leave that for the people out there, but for me it was a little suspicious.
Little red flag, yeah. And we see it all the time, yeah.
Again, sorry?
No, I was saying we see it all the time. So eventually
Yeah.
you have to call it out for what it is.
Exactly. And then you have the NASA creating a disclosure project. Because when we talk about SETI was created by NASA.
Right. And people who don't know what that is, that's the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, which has been run by quite a few people down in Arizona. But yeah, that's them constantly looking for alien life, of course.
Exactly. Started in the early 70s by NASA. GPL is involved, and everything is involved in this, disclosure project. And of course, after a while, supposedly they don't receive any more funds from NASA.
Right.
So they go out there asking for help for the regular people, and they receive millions because they establish these fanatic, UFO searchers.
Right.
So that this is like the church of the UFOs research.
And everybody knows who Stephen Greer is, who's continued on with this disclosure project and finding little miniature aliens and fun things like that.
Exactly, and what they did, and was a really nice play. They create this like super massive conference, invited all kind of media to cover this main presentation, and they have all these scientists for different fields talking about and showing pictures that we have reverse engineering this spacecraft. It's out there in the YouTube. You can watch it for yourself. But for me, this is the same kind of things when you see politicians, talking about the flat Earth of the alien invasion. If you're going to, lie, it's better that your lie is gonna be big, because otherwise nobody's going to believe you.
No one's gonna be paying attention at all. Yeah.
Exactly. So they go really, really huge in this kind of movement. Of course, right now in our days, SETI is getting back to Silicon Valley, and they are going to start using AI and artificial intelligence to interpret and solve the new challenges.
Good. Thank goodness.
So, what convenient, right?
All right.
Now we point to the start with a telescope. We see just a tiny white point, but the
AI knows
artificial
better.
intelligence is going to interpret it as a spaceship,
right,
or something like that. So this is really fresh news, and of course now SETI has all these supporters, including NVIDIA.
Good, right. Thank you for the graphics processor. It's going to tell us, just like they told us that the moon landings were certainly real.
Exactly. And you have the Google Cloud, Intel, the Canadian Space Agency, Lockheed Martin, IBM, Hewlett-Packard, NVIDIA, the USGS. So all these now are partnered to SETI. Very convenient, very convenient. And of course, like you mentioned before, I really like how NVIDIA is so worried to debunk the moon landing
conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theory. Yeah, they prove it. They create, and the key behind to explain this picture about the astronaut being illuminated in the shadow part is because you doesn't have into account that the suit from Neil Armstrong
is brightening it all
extra light to shine on the, come on.
And again, we've talked about this on Globebusters, how easy it is when you have 3D software. You can change the levels and make anything legit. It doesn't mean that means it's real. Just because you can change some levels on lighting until they match a photograph, that means that you can change the levels on a 3D software and make them match anything.
Exactly. And of course, for me, at least, I cannot leave apart the symbology behind all these companies. NVIDIA has all seen eye, of course, and then the name itself, NVIDIA. And then they use to process this image and trying to debunk the conspiracy theories about the moon landing. They use a software called Maxwell Render, and I use it too. And the nice symbol behind this is, of course, Maxwell, because Maxwell was one of the guys that proposed that the light has, being a wave. But they use this symbol because they use the wave and the particle. So the duality in terms of the light behavior. And of course, the color is orange. And the main company, because this just is a branch of the main company. The main company, it's called Next Limit Technology, and it's an hexagon with a rocket trying to reach the next limit. You know, what I'm trying to say with this is, for me, they are all in the same team.
Right.
They are all the time. This is a Bluebeam project. When you see this logo and you are a regular people that they make just computer graphic and you use this software, all the time that you open your software, you're gonna find this logo, and it's gonna be in your mind all the time. You know, here you have Next Limit, and I'm doing just fluid simulation.
Right.
But this company produced this software called RealFlow and called Maxwell Render. So every time you receive this tiny doses of Bluebeam in your head, you know, that is why I put this. So if we keep going, we can see how these kind of things keep going real. When you start looking in the news and you have alien exist and maybe on Earth, UK astronaut Helen Sharman says, you know, and this from January 6th of 2020, and you have this ex-astronaut from from England talking about that, alien exists because there are so many billion of stars out there in the universe that there must be all sorts of different forms of life.
Of course, and this is what we've been trying to say forever, that if that were the case, then you would have to believe that. So that's why they made it the case. Because by making it that there's billions and trillions of stars and trillions of galaxies and all this, then you have to take that next jump, which, well, then we can't be alone. Then we're not special. Then the Earth isn't impressive. The Earth is just a small speck of dust in the vacuum.
Exactly. And for example, the UN planned for alien ambassador, a case of science fiction. But that you need to take it as a real life thing.
Right.
I mean, they are still trying to portray this alien invasion. How? Putting these breadcrumbs, you know, all over the place. And that is why here, because I didn't have the time to translate it, but here we are attacking the step 2, the gigantesque space show.
Space show, yeah.
Because this is a space show. All we see here, from Ronald Reagan to all these politicians,
and this is what
SETI.
you're saying, that we don't need holograms in the sky. We've gotten further along now to where you can implant things in people's minds, like the Coroni circus. You can just implant these thoughts in people's minds and cause them to react.
Exactly, and I only put 2 news because you can find
there's tons,
thousands. You just type. Alien invasion, and you're gonna have like crazy. But like you say before, I mean, for me, the first step, this first holographic screen, is called television.
Right.
It's simply as that.
Yep. And being able to change people's opinions and change people's minds with a box in front of them, it makes them feel sadness, it makes them feel joy, it makes them feel empathy, it makes them feel pain. It can do so much. Just the same as real life can do. So you don't need to put it into the sky if you can just put it on the screen. It works the same. And we did get a super chat from Commercial Sound and Video. He said, Gracias, Iru, with an upside-down happy face. I guess that's for you, being upside down over there. And thank you to that flat fellow. Okay, yeah.
That's nice. That's nice way to see it. No, thank you. And of course, that's why for me, when still up there, you can find the television named like a nervous system manipulation.
Right, in the grants.
Through electromagnetic fields. That is why television make you cry, make you happy, make you choose one politician instead the other. And
I've seen documents. I've seen documents that came out of the Vatican shortly before the TV was even invented, saying, or before it was mass-produced at least, saying, hey, this is the great new thing that's coming, and look at all the amazing things we'll be able to do with the TV. We can make people feel pain. We can make them feel sadness. We can make them feel all these different feelings simply through images transmitted across wires.
Exactly. And in fact, here you have the rest of the patterns that you can find. This is in Spanish, but I have a video in my English channel that it's called Hypnotic TV. It's about 10 minutes only, and here you have all those patterns very well explained in terms of what they produce, because they produce, like you mentioned before, they produce brainwave inductor through light pulse induce wishes into the spectre.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Then you have inductor of altered state of consciousness, induce the spectre to a state of hypnosis, and then you have the name of the pattern. And if you Google search that, you're gonna find exactly what is said. So anytime that we buy this new technology devices, like, oh, now the television came with ultra surrounding sound. Well, the sound are pulses. The sound are hypnotic things. They can put in this kind of state.
They can transmit lots through that.
Exactly. And so that, when you start taking all into consideration, then you start, getting back to television. Remember that at the beginning of Hollywood is the tool for this. When you see that child saying to Obama, I believe alien is real. Well, why she believe? Because she see movies.
Right. And science fiction was so big, and they were able to know that, hey, once we put out these science fiction films, it will only increase the opinion of people that these things can exist, do exist, will exist, in the future or now.
Exactly.
Star Trek, Star Wars, same thing.
Exactly. That's why I need to remark that, and let me just for a moment leave this open so we can go came and go quickly. And what I'm saying is, when you read in the document, when you read in the document that here it said specifically, they talk about Hollywood and all these films. It's not just these films. This is referring to Hollywood, to television. It's the space show. It's projecting in the television. That is the thing that you need to have in mind, at least in my interpretation. And of course, at the beginning of the 20th century,
to put it in the sky above you anymore.
Exactly. And at the beginning, look how much the aliens has been changed, because at the beginning it was the imagination. It's just insect in the big scale, and that was aliens at that time.
Right.
Until maybe Aleister Crowley came and started drawing the first type of alien that we know today. This big head with the oval-shaped eyes and things like that. That came from an occultist guy.
Right. And it almost looks like a manifestation of these insects. Like the big-headed alien just looks like a giant fly or an ant.
Exactly. And I really like this title because they assume that the Earth is moving.
Of course.
And then start coming all this idea, of flying saucers.
Warning, take over.
Exactly. This idea of invasion all came from, science fiction, from Freemasons guy, talking about the things, and we're going to see it in a moment.
Right.
But for me, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I mentioned this guy, William Cooper, because for me, he put in words, very simple words, what's going on with all this. And he gave us, at least for me, a starting point in the ends of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th centuries. So I'm going to play this. It's about 2 minutes, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
But over the years, I've done a lot of research. What I've discovered is there's no proof existing anywhere that extraterrestrials are real, or that have ever visited this planet, or that they exist anywhere in the universe. There is not one shred of evidence anywhere. There is lots of evidence, tons of it in fact, that there are a group of people collectively known as the Illuminati who want us to believe in some extraterrestrial threat from space so that they can cause a world government, you know, bringing together of all the people to resist that external threat. And the first time that I saw any reference to that, I was reading some papers from the Carnegie Endowment Fund.
And that is very important. I mean, he put very simple, and he started saying that the first time that he read something about the alien invasion was in the foundation of Carnegie, which is a family related with all these elite that founded the UNESCO, you know, the Rockefeller, things like that. So that was like when I watched this for the first time, I'm start looking and saying, well, this is a really starting point, because I don't even imagine about this company talking about alien invasion. So I'm gonna keep playing.
Okay.
And there was a record of a speech. Well, it was a dinner for Viscount 𝙎𝙤𝙘𝙨 of the Japanese delegation, the Japanese imperial delegation, in 1917. And John Dewey was one of the speakers.
John Dewey, remember that.
The first sentence out of his mouth as I was reading this almost fell out of my chair, because this was in 1917, and he said the best way to cause all the people of the world to come together in one world government and end war forever would be if we were attacked by some other species from some other planet. And boy, that just clicked with me, and I knew that that this is just another scam. This is the age of deception. There's no doubt about it. And then 8 times during Reagan's administration, he inserted almost the exact same phrase into 8 of his speeches. And it's a scam. That's what I can tell you. What they call UFOs, these craft that fly around in the sky, are real, but they're not piloted by some little green guy from some other planet.
So for me, it was, you know, like a new starting point, you know, to go a little more in the past and start looking at what this guy said. And of course, it was this meeting, you know, founded by the Carnegie, the Imperial Japanese Mission, 1917, a record of the reception through United States of the special mission headed by, you can find it all over the place. It's not a secret. But he mentioned John Dewey, and this one is the only 4 slices. I didn't have the time to translate, so sorry about that.
No problem. You can do it in real time.
In real time.
But so Cooper's absolutely right when he calls it the age of deception. I mean, anybody who watches our channel knows that is the age that we're in. And, you know, he mentions Reagan, but it's no different really than Bush. Bush did the same thing. Werner von Braun telling his associate, what's her name? I forgot her name. But
Caroline Rose Caroline. Yeah, I have it, the video from that woman too.
Carol Rosin. Yeah, there you go.
Carol Rosin.
Yeah. You know, telling her exactly what the deception will be. So it's out there everywhere. It's not something that you need to look very hard to find. But go ahead, continue.
Well, how Milton Cooper said, I mean, he mentioned that the first guy that came with this idea, it was John Dewey, or Dewey, I don't know how to pronounce.
Yeah, Dewey.
Dewey. And this guy, he was the father of the new education in United States. So this guy, was the creator of the pragmatism. Instead, you know, I'm going to read it and trying to translate. But Dewey was one of the first developers, important developers behind the philosophy of pragmatism. The pragmatism proclaimed that the true or a value of idea is based on the result that give, right? Okay. The pragmatics believe that truth is relative, situational, and with the end of that the end justify the medium.
The means.
That is
Yeah,
the
that the
means.
ends justify the means. I mean, he was big on that. You know, all the early education stuff of things that we've talked about, and I've talked about it in my shows. All the documents, even the NASA documents, talking about how the ends justify the means, talking to children about Wernher von Braun and how great of a person he is, because look what he did. He took us to the moon. Don't look at what he did in the beginning. The ends justify the means.
Exactly. So let me just type this. But the important thing is that the Rockefeller and Carnegie foundations stimulate 2/3 of the financial sorry for this part, financing 2/3 of the total institutions of educations in United States. Mm-hmm. So there you have it. It's right in your face. I mean, these two, companies, these two family create all the, institutions, educational institutions in United States, and of course in the rest of America, and of course they participate with the European schools, because if you put the money, you're gonna choose, or at least you're gonna have the opportunity to select what is the most important things to educate the child, mm-hmm. right?
Right, of course.
So it's simply as that. That is a brilliant play. It's a brilliant move,
That's
okay, I pay for
create
all the schools, but I decide what is the study plan.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, again, I always talk about, if you're in power, would you go to meetings and say, how can we teach these children to be more in power? How can we teach them to come take my money, to take my power, to take my wealth? No, of course not. You're going to do the opposite. How do I create a system of education where my power, my family's power, my friend's power and wealth is never questioned, is never put in jeopardy?
Exactly. So that is why we never heard nothing about Freemasonry or these families.
Right, no, that's not in. That's why we don't hear about Tesla. That's why you don't hear about the Rockefellers in school. These are not part of the educational plan put together by those exact men.
Exactly. In 1933, Dewey asked for a synthesis of all religions and an economic order and one economic order. Mm-hmm. So there you start having this idea of unify the religions right there. Then he look at that. The implementation of the objectives from Dewey was also financed by members of the Skull and Bones.
Wow.
And this is official.
I didn't know that.
This is not taken from the conspiracy thing. Nothing.
Right.
This is official. So you have Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Skull and Bones founding and creating your educational system.
Right.
At the beginning of the 20th century. And I need to remark again, this was the first guy that came with the idea of unify the complete world via an alien invasion.
Right. Yeah, and people know too, the Masons are big involvement in the starting of public schools. It's the same thing.
Well, this guy was a co-founder of many Masonic institutions, including the NAACP and the American Philosophical Association. In 1905, he became a president of the American Philosophical Association. Mm-hmm. So here in that simply slice, we have, at least for me, the beginning of this New Age deception and the alien invasion. Because after all, if you ask out there who are the most important main characters behind the idea of aliens, it's Japan. Mm-hmm. Japan is one of the the first community out there creating all these fantasy alien things.
And the other thing too about Dewey was an atheist, of course. Of course, anybody who wants to do this, who wants to abolish religions, who wants to set forth the educational plan, this is what I always get into when I talk about the two worldviews. You have one worldview against the other, and one is clearly winning with the installment of their educational plans and their educational programs. and their TV programs and their television program. It's all programming.
Exactly. And in fact, in the 20 decade, 1920, how you pronounce this? Dewey.
Dewey?
Yeah. Dewey. Yeah. Sorry for my pronunciation,
No
guys. Dewey wrote extensively praising the educational system of the Soviets.
Mm-hmm.
So, this idea of, no, the Soviets are the enemy, blah, blah, blah. It's all a deception, of course. And in fact, he was invited to visit the Soviet Union in 1928 to observe and watch the educational system in that country. And he based a lot of the recommendations for the United States education based on the Soviet model. So you can see why, and I repeat again, in this document is talking about the United States and Russia work together from the beginning. Here you have the Soviets start to feed the computer with options, blah, blah, blah. I mean, and if you go a little more in history, you already know that after the First War, the Russia, the Soviet Union became a Freemasonry government. There is no more SARS, so they put the agent in the Russia government.
And Dewey, he also wrote the introduction to F.M. Alexander's book, Constructive Conscious Control of the Individual, which is nice, 1923.
So one of the first time that maybe here in the step 2, in the gigantic space show, they mentioned for the first time the New World Order. And of course, in that time, we've heard from the,
This is an historic moment. We have in this past year made great progress in ending the long era of conflict and Cold War. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle.
And let me just interpret this part. When he said jungle, he's not referring to jungle. He's referring to the natural law,
right?
Which is a complete different thing from the jungle.
Yeah, it's quite different.
But the people heard that and say, "Oh, of course, what a civilized guy, because the law of the jungle is kill ourselves." No. The law of the jungle is equal to the natural law. That's, just want to clarify.
Governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
And then is the final key. They want to complete the visions of the UN founders. Completely. I mean, who was the founders of the UN? That is the thing that you need to start thinking about this. So, just for be clear, when he talks about the, that is something that all the time I bring to the new people, but Karl Marx, Lenin, Rothschild, Stalin, they have all this Freemason sign. So they are not Soviet or United States. They are all belong to these occultist societies. So it doesn't matter the flag. For them, it doesn't exist any flag at all.
No, they don't care about that.
They don't care.
That's for you. That's for me.
Exactly. So when all these guys in terms of the Russia, they are at the same time of all these space career stars, So it's everything is in front of our faces, So when he talks about the UN founder, And we have been talking about Dewey, and all these educational programs. Of course, they complete the plan using the UNESCO, which is the educational scientist culture institution for all the world, at least in the occidental part of the world. And of course, the founder, not the founder, but because the founder was the Rothschild, the Rockefellers, the Carnegie.
Right.
That was the founder, you know. But one of the first director, and I mentioned this many times before, but the Huxley family is behind the first steps in the UNESCO.
Brother, right.
So they select what kind of science you need to teach, what kind of cultural things you need to teach. And these are all guys that belong to occultist families. In fact, right in your faces, Aldous Leonard Huxley was, he was interested in the spiritual subjects of parapsychology and mysticism. So this guy supports Charles Darwin's work. You have all right in your face. And in fact, and this is the last two slides that I didn't translate it. But if you go to Bernard Russell and you listen about the scientific perspective, in his book, he talks about that for him, the best educational system for a scientific society is the analogy of the education provided by Jesuit.
Right.
Right in your face. But why he said that? Because he said that the Jesuit give two educational classes. One for the child who became regular men, and the other is for those who reach position powers.
Right.
Right.
And I've talked about that a million times before. Is that I went to a Jesuit taught high school, and you're exactly right. There's two different types of education there. One for the regular student there, and then the other would be for the people that are going to move on from that and become members of the Society of Jesus.
Exactly. And remember, and this is my opinion, but remember that the original name from the Jesuit, this is the company of Jesuit, no Jesuit. And if you look the compass, the square and compass with the G in the middle, and you start looking and you you become aware that the Masonic order was created by Jesuits.
I think so. It's a branch, yeah.
So it's a branch, exactly. So, just because there is so many meanings about the G in the square and compass. Some guys said that it came from Gadu, which in Spanish is the great architect of the universe. Yep. Then you have the G is the gravity.
No, it's gravity. Right.
Yeah, exactly. For me, the G is the Jesus, is the company of Jesus. But in Freemasonry, you have so many layers.
It's the same thing, though. If you look at the Masonic education, it's the same thing as you look here what Bertrand Russell said, where it's two different orders. It's the one of the regular men who think that they're there for good, who are there to do society's good work, and then there's the people who reach the highest levels who are taught a different education.
Exactly. So when you see these people, you believe that he's became what kind of education he received?
Right, skull and bones education.
The one for the regular men?
No, of course not.
No, of course not. So that is why our political or economical system or scientific system, yeah, you can go there and study whatever you want, but you're never going to have any relevance, in terms of what you dream. Maybe you create some kind of device or technology. Okay, they're going to buy it, and then gone. And of course, I put this as a reference. This was the father of the educational system in Argentina, for example. And the Freemasonry here in Argentina, they create this 1420 law that they took away a lot of things in religion things from school, which for me it's good because I don't believe in any religion, but they don't do it on that purpose because again they took the religions out of the school, but they never talk about the Freemasonry, which is another religion,
right,
or the Jesuit order, which is another religion.
And I think you and I have the same, same ideas when it comes to religion, is that it's simply a product of man, which is what makes
exactly.
it, which is what makes it standoffish to me. Is I've never found anything that hasn't been completely ruined by men. So it's very, very easy to, just like I say with channels, just like I say with other videos I watch, you can take the good, leave the bad. The same is true for all religions. All religions have good.
Exactly. Completely agree. So if you want to see these last 3 slides in terms of real life events, I mean, the ones who receive education for be just regular men and workers for the system, and the ones who is going to get different education to be prepared for,
it's like
cheap
the whole
people.
saying that they want people that are just smart enough to work their machines, to do their dirty work, to keep the society moving, but just dumb enough to never realize the predicament that they're in and that they're held down. And those who educated us made sure of that.
Exactly. So here you have a real life example, one of many out there, but it's the Skull and Bone thing. I mean, they have in the Yale University, which is one of the most prestigious universities, they have this fraternity,
right?
Which have Freemason people, which, I mean, it's right in your face.
Yeah, they don't even need to hide it.
They have this different educational system inside of their own educational institutions.
Old boys club.
Exactly. So let me just play for the record. I know that a lot of people see this video before.
Sure, but some people haven't or forgot.
Skull and Bone. You were both in Skull and Bone, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
And the guy even denied it. He said, yeah, it's so secret that we cannot talk about it.
Right.
I mean, you expect something like, no, that was just, some conspiracy theories or, people saying that, but it's not true. No, the guy is completely confirmed.
And
yes,
he
it's so
made
secret
laugh.
that I can't talk about it.
Yeah, he does that little laugh so that everybody, because there's a lot of people at home that may see this and then say, oh, he's just blowing it off. It doesn't exist. It is a conspiracy theory. But that's not the case at all. Of course, that's what they want you to think.
So you believe this is just what, CGI?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, they're just completely. That's the thing, and again, they have to reveal some of these things to you, so he can't tell you, no, it doesn't exist. No, so by laughing it off and saying, oh, it's so secret, we can't tell you about it, hoping that the majority of people, grandparents, old people at home, are just going to hear it and think, oh, it must be just not real. Go ahead, press play. Let's hear it.
You were both in Skull and Bone, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322.
You both were members of the secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but one...
And he looked down to the table. It's all kind of secrets. I mean, it's right in your face. Right there you have in real life example, the different educational system, the guys who is going to be part of the Matrix agents and who was to be just regular people like us.
And the way they answer it, too, it's just in a way that makes people who aren't awake not see anything.
Exactly. And the journalist was killed after this. He also was killed. He died in a very strange accident, something like that. He was found in his house. I don't know if poison or suicide, something like that.
I didn't know that. Who's the journalist?
I cannot remember the name, but I present this so many times in my Spanish YouTube channel that somebody told me and sent me the paper, the newspaper talking about the guy and all the things, and was killed after this.
Go back to the beginning and just show it, because people in the chat will know what his name is. That guy. I've seen him many times before. Somebody in the chat, tell me his name, please. I'll
Please.
bring it up here and get his name.
But there you have, I trying to bring, I like to bring this short video because so many times we just speak about, all these documents, and sometimes for regular people it's difficult to put in real life examples. They believe that maybe because we are reading from web pages and things like that, maybe it's all, maybe interpretation from YouTubers and things like that. But no, that is real life things.
Okay, I got some people who says his name is Tim Russert. So I will look it up. Thank you, guys. Somebody said Belushi. It looks like Belushi. Thank you, everybody. All right, Timothy Russert is his name. Some people said they didn't hear he died as well. I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
But go ahead, continue.
So after all, we have this Yale University, among another institutions that are founded and financially active via Jesuit or Freemasonry or the Knights of Columbus, or all these kind of things exist, are real life things. The Bilderberg Group, all these kind of things are related with this Blue Beam project. At least that is my opinion. This is just a tiny, of course somebody gonna say no, because this is the X of the SpaceX. Okay, you want to believe whatever you want. This is just another, just graphic things talking about the sign of the X and the Skull and Bones symbol, because after all, that is the way that this guy used to communicate in public. And that was one of the first things that the Freemasonry start doing it, for don't be detected in public, but they need to say, hey, I am one of yours, so don't put me in trouble, right?
Right, and I did look it up. You were exactly right. He did die from a heart attack. I'll have to do some more. I didn't know that. I didn't know that he was a guy. That, This is the kind of stuff they never, let out very much. June 13th, 2008. He's okay. So a lot of people said they didn't hear he died either, but it does say, at least according to the Wikipedia, he collapsed in the offices of WRC-TV, which houses the Washington D.C. bureau of the NBC News, where he was a chief. He was recording voiceovers for Meet the Press, and walked down a hallway to record voiceovers in a soundproof booth and collapsed. A coworker began CPR on him. He was taken to the hospital and pronounced dead at 58 years old. All right, thank you. Anyway, let's continue.
But I believe that was the only one that I heard, saying this to Bush and Sean Kerry.
Yeah.
I never see another guy, confronting and saying, hey, you are a Freemason or you are a Skull and Bones member.
Right.
And that you need to have a big courage, right?
Yeah.
And after all, in terms of the educational system, after all, it's like another Freemasonry guy said, give me just one generation of young people and I will transform the whole world.
Yeah.
So, that is why for me, the first thing start, and of course you have the sign and symbol rule the world, not words, not law, from Confucius. You have all the Freemasonry, Masonic hand thing. It doesn't matter if you are a Jesuit, or if you are a writer, or if you are a politician, or you are a war captain, or whatever. They are belong to the same club. And, you need to have this in mind when you trying to understand the Blue Beam project, at least for me, because everything came in terms of the educational system at first. And then they combined with all this, because television right now, it became a new way to educate people.
Yeah, and then you can look at, you gave that quote about Lenin, but the same thing is true for Ignatius Loyola, who was the founding member of the Jesuits, who said the same thing: give us a child till he's 7 and we'll have him for life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only 8 slices more, and if you want to, we can make the first break.
Okay.
Before attacking the fall of all architectural knowledge.
Sure. So yeah, we'll be done. He's got a few more slides. We'll be done with part 1, and then we'll continue on next Thursday at noon. Go ahead.
Exactly. So The first thing of this fake war between Russia and United States, but these are the main characters behind the Blue Beam project, because like I mentioned before, it's right away on the own document talking about NASA Blue Beam project and the Soviet Union playing a huge role, you know, in terms of this Blue Beam project. For me was the Sputnik. And not only for me, I see a lot of people talking about this, a lot of other flat earthers talking about the first false flag in terms of space was the Sputnik. Because who's going to believe that this spherical ball is still in orbit?
Right, flying around.
Flying around. And how this is going to what? To hear you? Talking about, because you know, Soviet fires Earth satellite into space. It is circling the globe at 18,000 miles per hour, sphere tracking in 4 crossing over US, and they put on the paper news, which was the television at that time. Not because the television doesn't exist, but this was
the
way
way
main...
people got their news. Yeah,
exactly. So you have the
and it was right in the middle of all the nuclear bomb, you know, hoaxes, all the nuclear bomb fear and propaganda. And once they said, oh, if Russia can send this little ball and it can track over your head, well, then imagine that they could drop a nuclear weapon at any time. So it just induced fear as well.
Exactly. It's all based on fear, like we see nowadays with the coronavirus. So the thing is that supposedly this is the power supply. These were the antennas, the radio transmitter. This was the guy behind it. But when you go to real thing, you know, let me just play this.
Scenes which follow.
This was, you know, presented in American television for the first time.
Are taken from a communist propaganda film, now being shown in America for the first time.
What that sound? That sound is original, man. I mean,
yeah.
You know, the people that maybe...
And think how easy that would be. They had people who would tune their radios to a certain, you know, frequency, and they would pick that sound up and say, oh, that thing is flying above my head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, in America for the first time.
CBS Television presents a special report on Sputnik 1, the Soviet space satellite. Douglas Edwards reporting.
Until 2 days ago, that sound had never been heard on this Earth. Suddenly, it has become as much a part of 20th century life as the whir of your vacuum cleaner. It's a report from man's farthest frontier, the radio signal transmitted by the Soviet Sputnik, the first man-made satellite as it passed over New York earlier today.
No, it's it's crazy, but at that time people believe whatever they want. You have the World of Worlds, you know, playing on radio, and people get suicide. You have all these kind of things.
Well, what's different about that today? You know, they play the World of Worlds over the radio, and people laughed at those people. And then look at today, they play coronavirus, you know, over the airwaves, and people rush to get all their toilet paper and stock up, and the end of the world is coming.
Exactly. So we're going to see in the future of this presentation directly and specific the electronic bidirectional telepathic communication. But these kind of signals are the same thing, because they put on radio, they make that noise, go into your head, and saying, oh, that noise is equal to these satellites spying us from, you know, 500 miles above Earth, circling the Earth 4 times a day.
18,000 miles an hour. Yeah.
Exactly. And well, and of course, if you want to complete that propaganda, you need a Russian very, very angry.
Okay, good.
Giving orders, you know, you come there, go there, play the button. Yeah,
you,
play the button.
Send the satellite.
Yeah, of course. And of course, you know, the scientists go there, they use the Masonic floor. Look at that, man. I mean, what? How this thing is in orbit?
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb. Of course, at that time.
Well, but look at those. There's those people there at the consoles, so it must be real.
It must be real.
And this guy's on the phone.
You have an angry Russian.
And you turn a dial. It's very real.
Make some fireworks.
Right.
You know, and done. It's go all in your head. And this for me, it's and not only for me. It's all, of course, for other people, because I learned this from other guys. But for me, it's very
so the entire country went outside to watch the 20. Yeah.
It's very realistic. Yeah, it's very realistic thing that this was the first 20th century event.
False flag, really.
False flag for creating space in our heads.
Right.
Because before this, nobody sent nothing into space.
No, the idea of orbits was only from, the whole science fiction realm.
Exactly. And this was like, okay, this is the first man-made object, put in orbit, flying. The space is real. The Jesuit order has right. The scientist has right. We are living in vacuum space.
Right. Twirling on a ball at 2.1 million miles per hour. Yes, of course.
Exactly. And the people all freak out. And if you start compare with our days, it's the same thing when the people get out there to see the Curiosity landing on Mars.
Right.
All in the street looking at screens. All the time you look in screens. You look in lights, you look in just, that is why I believe that the heliocentric model is a mathematical model put in your brain, and your brain interpreted as images.
Right. And it's able to run as a computer model. And therefore, you just pass that off as being real. Since you can't go to space, just like you can't go inside the computer, it's the same thing. It can exist in one, it exists in the other.
Exactly. If you are educated people in terms of mathematical, you can interpret this as images. But if you don't worry. We provide these equations in terms of images.
Right. And you can go to different software programs, and it will show you exactly what's in the sky.
Exactly. So even in the Zion protocol, there is one of the protocol number 2, that says very clear, for them let that play the principal part, which we have. If you want to read it, because for me it's a little difficult. Maybe it's not good translated.
No, it's good. It says for them, let that play the principal part, which we have persuaded them to accept as the dictates of science theory. Right. So it's, once you've dictated something as science, then people will be persuaded to accept that aspect of it as reality, because science is reality. Science, all you have to say is it's backed by science, supported by science. Scientists say, scientists show, and you've already got an entire world that will believe anything that follows that. If you don't think that's by design, don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. And this other part, which is in yellow too.
It is with this object in view that we are constantly, by means of our press, arousing a blind confidence in these theories. Exactly what I just said, yeah.
Exactly. So there you have it. And of course...
Oh, go back actually one. I want to read what's right below that. It seemed really interesting too. It says, the intellectuals of the Goyim will puff themselves up with their knowledge, and without any logical verification of them will put into effect all the information available from science, which our agentur specialists have cunningly pieced together for the purpose of educating their minds in the direction we want. It just ties in with everything we were talking about, the educational program, and the fact that people will puff themselves up with this knowledge. All these guys that are out there, other channels, you guys have all heard of them, that think they know what's going on because they've been taught it in a book, and follow it up with the next one. And without any logical verification of them, will put into effect all this information.
And finish to read the last sentence.
Sure. Do not suppose for a moment that the statements are empty words. Think carefully of the successes we arranged for Darwinism, Marxism, Nazism. To us Jews, at any rate, it should be plain to see what a disintegrating importance these directives have upon the minds of the Goyim. Right.
So there you have it in your face. And of course, we have all been know about this. And if you want to read it, please.
Sure. To be successful, manipulation should remain invisible. The success of the manipulation is guaranteed when the manipulated believe that everything happens naturally and inevitably. In short, manipulation requires a false reality in which its presence will not be felt, which is like space. Think about it. Think about everything that you've been told about space and these distances and the giganticness of the sun and how big the sun is.
It's all naturally.
Yeah, you could just say, the sun's up there naturally. It's just a big ball of burning gas, and it's 867,000 miles wide. And you have no experience of that other than you just believe it.
the corona is naturally evolved from bats,
Right.
and
From
of
snakes
course,
and bats.
it's related to this,
Yep.
Well, now our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. So
Right.
it's the same thing. I mean,
Same thing.
you need
They
to
get
use
off on this.
real life.
That's their goals. This is their intent. They have it as their design from day one. Who knows where day one was? How far back can we go? We see these evidences pretty much as far back as written history goes, if you want to even believe any of that. This has always been the intent. In order to stay in power, in order to stay in control, in order to have control and hold that over the masses, you need to convince them of a reality which is not at all the reality that we live in. And they've done an excellent job for time immemorial.
Exactly. And in fact, this last paragraph saying, in short, manipulations require a false reality. That's, is brilliant, because when you see the Sputnik, when you see this is a false reality. This is a false reality, perpetrated by the media and some guys making models in Hollywood.
Right.
So
imagine
all
how
these
easy
kind of
it is
things
to...
are false reality.
Right.
All these kind of speeches, it's all false reality, but you need it to put out there for, the people start beginning to say, oh no, this is true, man. I mean, look at these politicians, look at this, look at that.
Imagine the mindset of the world if they didn't have to put up with all this bullshit. Imagine if we never got put these things in our faces and these television images. Think of what a different reality we would live in. It's all manufactured.
It's all manufactured, exactly. And if you want to, we can make it our first stop here, because I have all the rest, based on the archaeologist archaeological knowledge is
cool.
How it was being run, all the connection with the Sigaria Sitchin, the Anunnakis, the Asian aliens, all that kind of stuff. It's gonna take me a while to explain.
Okay.
So sorry, because I believe that I was capable to explain also this first part of the first goal, but it took me too much time, the first part.
No, it's good. It's better as a conversation. I like commenting. I'm probably holding you back. I know it's supposed to be a presentation, and I'm talking on every damn slide. But that's great. And so next week we'll do part 2. So tune in next Thursday as we'll do part 2 of this. And if we have to do a part 3, we'll do a part 3. And then also, Iru's also going to be doing, coming up, I don't know when, but on one of these Thursdays, a presentation on the electric universe, which I've been waiting for to listen to as well for a while. So I think there's other people out there that want to hear that
after
as
this
well.
one, if you want to.
Okay. Yeah, and if anybody else out there is interested in presenting on a Thursday, I know we've had Life is Short do it. I think Josh Brown's going to do it coming up. We've had Ranty Flat Earth do it. I had Josh Rosen on a few weeks back. I had Rodrigo obviously do his Spacecraft Mag. So if you're interested in presenting something, you can contact me on Skype. Just search Jeranism Truth and let me know. Give me a heads up or show me a video or maybe a PowerPoint presentation of what you're thinking of presenting, and we will go from there. So thanks, Iru. Anything else you want to show before I turn you off there?
No, I just, scrolling down, showing a few slides that we're going to cover in the next episode. Of course, maybe it's going to be 3 because I have a lot of for sharing, and I really, I really enjoy this presentation. I really enjoy your invitation. The people that follow us, in the chat and out there, it's really nice to have this opportunity in your channel. So thank you so much for inviting me, and of course, everyone to want to follow me. NPT Red Pill in YouTube. Nur para Todos is my Spanish channel. Patreon. Is Patreon/Nur para Todos. So. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you the people understand me and don't complain about my English. I'm trying to get better every day.
No, I think it was great. No, if anybody complains, they don't need to watch. So if you don't like listening to Iru, don't show up next Thursday.
Donald Trump, that's for you.
I can't understand a word he's saying. I'm still waiting for Trump to give me his impression of Iru, but we'll have to check that out down the road. All right, guys, it's been fun again. Thank you to all my patrons, patreon.com/Jeranism. And if you want to mail me something, you can do that as well. P.O. Box 3044, Merced, California, 95344. Tune in tomorrow at the same time at noon. We'll be having a 𝙎𝙤𝙨𝙪𝙨 Friday Lounge. Not sure who will be on the show yet, but we'll have a little discussion. Then, of course, we've got Glowbusters coming up Sunday. Turn around back into Raw on Monday night. I think we're going to have Jason Lingren on again to talk about the coronavirus whistleblower and the MD that have come out both on Crow 777's channel. So check that out, Crow 777 Radio on YouTube if you want to check out the whistleblower and also some information from an MD that came out this week on the Corona Circus. All right, Iru, any final words?
No, man. Peace out and see you next time.
See you guys. I remind you to do your own research because when you do, you'll never again believe what the Jesuits taught you. Till next week, this has been 𝙎𝙤𝙨𝙪𝙨. Peace.